So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new DCU Chapter 1 discussion series video. If you're brand new here and you don't know what these videos are about, what we do is we discuss any recent news on the DCU, and I'll say there's been, quite a bit of that. I bounce off of you guys, vice versa, we speculate, theorize, and all of those good things. I've got so many questions that I need to get through. I probably will not get through all of them, but I will be looking to do another one of these with everything that's going on. I just might not be able to touch on everything, but I can't wait to see what you guys have to say with what I'm going to say in this video. So without further ado, let's get into this. But mind you, before we actually get into today's video, a quick word from this video's sponsor, FanHome. FanHome, who is all about creating collectibles, sent me the first volume, the first graphic novel of their Legends of Batman series, in where you can build up special edition collectible hardback comic volumes of Batman's journey, catered to delivering volumes telling his story throughout the years, beginning with the first hardback, Batman 0 Year. Now, this may be something that you already know about me if you've been here for a while, but it was actually the New 52 which got me back into reading the source material of Batman. And as I got more into the New 52's iteration of Batman, I really enjoyed how the New 52 story just brought about its own innovation of Batman's first outings of being a vigilante in Batman 0 Year. So I do think it's like a really cool place to start off this collection. This is not just the New 52, by the way, because in this subscription, it actually spans to 136 different graphic novels of Batman's journey. But then you get onto other stories, such as covering Grant Morrison's Batman and Son, which I have to say is absolutely great reading material, especially since we have the DCU Batman on his way with James Gunn's take on the character, and we know that Grant Morrison's Batman is a strong influence on the DCU Batman, since we know that Damian Wayne is coming along. As your subscription unfolds, you'll also get exclusive Batman gifts, such as this Legends of Batman printed plate, 2 metal bookends, and more. So with that being said, if you guys want to start collecting and expanding your very own Batman comic book collection, click the link in the description box of this video, which will take you right to fanhome.com's Legends of Batman page, and use my personal code that is on screen, as it really does help support the channel. And obviously, thank you so much to FanHome for sponsoring this video. So, starting off with question number 1 here from Chloe the Avenger, saying, do you think set photos increase hype or decrease it? Now, this is an interesting one because I think there's somewhat multiple answers. I think my knee-jerk reaction is, for example, when we got photos of Mr. Terrific and a new look at the Superman suit outside of James Gunn's official reveal, I do think that serves to mostly hype fans. Of course, you will have people with all different opinions on the suit, even with a better look at it, because at the end of the day, some of us don't like it, some of us do like it, some of us love it, some of us really don't like it, and that's fine. Everyone can have different opinions. But I will say, for, I think, a majority of fans, when you do get a bit of a better look, even when there were people who were fans of James Gunn's reveal, which, I like the suit, I even like the pose, but, I've got mixed feelings about certain things. Getting a bit of a better look when you were still unsure on certain things really does generate hype that much more. Even though they're still set photos and it won't have the sheen of the screen of the movie, possibly making it better. And that's not a cope. I'm not trying to say, oh, as soon as we see it in the movie, all of your criticisms of the suit will go away. No, I'm just saying, obviously, even the set photos, if you think they look good, it will probably look even better in motion on screen. But then again, this is what I mean by multiple different answers. Set photos can just really reinforce people's dislike of the suit. But putting that behind us, you do have another thing with set photos, something that I have to tackle in videos, and that is spoilers. Now, this is a thing in where, once again, you have different opinions. Some people, such as myself, believe it or not, up until a certain extent, don't mind seeing little spoilers. I personally think it's fine to have a look at Mr. Terrific, Superman, when we first got those photos, because, I mean, come on, guys, you're going to see the suit in the trailer, you're going to see it in posters, so, okay, maybe you might argue with me saying that, okay, but I'd rather see it in the official reveal poster or the trailer. That's fair enough. You might want to really savor it for, approved marketing material where they really do think it's the best look that they can put out there in the trailers and whatnot. Now, for me, I really don't mind that. I don't mind seeing Clark Kent walk to the Daily Planet, but there is a line to walk because, for example, the other set photos that came out the other day, don't worry, I'm not going to get into the spoiler right here, but there was another couple of characters that appeared alongside Superman. Ultimately, I think they increase hype. I will say that largely that they increase hype. But of course, it can decrease it for some fans. So honestly, it really just depends who you are. So the Drexlord asks, do you think Batman and Superman have met? If so, how long do you think they have known each other? So once upon a time with the DCU, knowing even the facts back then that Superman is an established hero because it's not an origin, so we're not going to be seeing him take flight for the first time like Henry Cavill in Man of Steel, putting on the Superman suit for the first time. We know from even set newspapers that he's been saving people. There's dates ranging from May to September. Those may be different years, and even if they're in the same year, I think he's been active for more than 1 year. He's been called Metropolis's most famous hero, or the best that they have to offer. So I do think he's been around for like 2 or 3 years at least, maybe not too much more than that, and I actually hope that it isn't too much more than that. And so with that being said, early on, I really didn't know if Batman had met Superman yet. I always reckoned with the idea that if Superman is out there and Batman has been active for at least 8 to 10, maybe even 12 years of his career, with Damian Wayne coming in, and, we've been through that enough, you'd have to think that Batman, knowing who he is, already knows who Superman is. I mean, obviously, you would have heard about him with all of these saves, and obviously, he's active over there in Gotham City. So I'd like to think that they have met already. I know some people would want them to meet for the first time. Granted, I can't, rule out that they're not going to meet for the first time. And it's more of a situation that Batman and Superman are aware of each other, but they haven't had so much of a proper formal introduction. Maybe you could argue that Batman knows that there's a Superman, but doesn't know he's Clark Kent. That could be really cool because, again, they may have had, like, encounters, but might not have truly started their friendship. But I do, if I had to, like, chuck a bet in on the table with my chips, I'd be like, you know what, they probably have actually met before, especially with all the theories going on out there with how, there's probably at least, if not a fully fledged Justice League, some kind of Justice League operating, whether that's Justice League International, in addition to maybe a smaller scale Justice League. And what I mean by smaller scale is that there may be one out there, but I'm not going to go as far as saying that it's as big as it is in Justice League Unlimited, even though that is one of the influences on the DCU, and I think that will just grow and prosper even more with all the heroes out there. But Superman, we can't forget, hasn't been as active as long as Batman. We definitely know that much. But again, I do want to add in the possibility that the Justice League could still be formed, even though there are other proto-league or different Justice League situations going on with Mr. Terrific and whatnot, Metamorpho, and their Maxwell Lord Tech funded corporate team, if you will, with all of the clues that we're finding out. Because I would still view a corporate sponsored superhero team with Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific somewhat of a proto-league, if there isn't quite a proper Justice League established out there. But I would love to know your thoughts on that, guys, because I could ramble about questions like this forever. Have Batman and Superman met, given everything I just said? Now, up next from J. Jonah Jameson, 6765. As we know, James Gunn's Superman is based on 3 distinct eras of the Man of Steel. But do you think we'll see something very similar with regards to other characters like Batman? For example, the logo from one period of his history, the colors and the style from another, etc., etc. And then we have Void Neon here adding into this, saying, do you think the DC Batman's costume will also feature trunks, and do you think it could take away from the fundamental seriousness of his character, or help set this depiction of him apart from other versions? Love your videos, man. Thank you. Then we have Jay Cussy here saying, do you think the Batman DCU suit will be the blue and gray version? So, clearly a lot of Batman costume questions, given that we've now had the fallout and better looks of, the Superman suit. So with that being said, do I think the Batman costume will also feature Trunks? Could it take away the fundamental seriousness? It's difficult, because with me, even though I'm fine with having Trunks on David Corenswet's Superman suit, I have been saying this whole time that I'm more of a belt guy, if you know what I mean. I like the red belt, breaking it up, maybe yellow or something like that. But again, I'm not either or, absolutely against either option. I'm fine with the Trunks. I still like them. I think they are iconic Superman. But if I could maybe choose, I don't know if I would go with them. So the same definitely stands with Batman. And, I've seen a lot of people, there's probably other questions that I've taken screenshots of saying, will there be New 52 inspiration? Since obviously Superman has quite a few New 52 implementations into his suit, with the lining and whatnot, the collar. And that is definitely possible. But for the Trunks, I don't know. Superman, arguably, Trunks have been, I don't know, I feel like they're more associated with Superman than they are Batman. Now, don't get me wrong, I am very, very, very aware that Batman has had Trunks many, many times into his past as well. Like, very much so, even going back to the very beginning of his character. But I don't know if you'd agree with me, I still feel like the Trunks situation with regards to DC characters is way more iconically linked to that of Superman with the red Trunks, right? With the red cape. Whereas Batman has kind of gone back and forth at times. And I know a lot of people bring up the video game saying, well, Arkham had, a much more serious version of Batman and he had Trunks. And I totally get what people were saying there, but I don't know if it's like an accurate comparison, because video games are something that you kind of suspend your disbelief with so much more than I think you do with a live action movie. And I go back and forth on this because I almost disagree with myself as I say that, because clearly you suspend your disbelief when you're about to see Metamorpho and Superman fly and everything like that. So why can't you suspend well, it's not so much of a suspending your disbelief situation when you wear Trunks on either hero, but yeah, why can't you toss that in there as well? I know what you mean, but going back to the Arkham thing, it's just, I feel like people don't really register playing a character in the game in the same way, like let's just say Batman wearing Trunks in the Arkham games, in the same way as seeing him in live action. I don't know, and I'm probably not articulating my point very well there, but if any part of that sentiment gets across to you, maybe you know what I mean. But that's not to say that Batman can't have Trunks in live action. With James Gunn's DCU, I think it will be a lot more comic book campy and bizarre and wacky in all the best ways. I'm not saying it won't be serious, because I even think Batman the Brave and the Bold begs a kind of serious-esque story, even though I think there will be lighter tones in it, because as I've always said as well, you can definitely have a spectrum of Batman tones in a Batman movie. That's, very much so portrayed in the comic books as well, with Bat family members goofing around, maybe taking the piss out of Bruce a little bit, but then again, Batman is very serious and those moments will come. But then you have Damian Wayne. I think that will add a bit of levity to the story, but also so much sincerity. I think there will be the dread of Batman as well. Andy Muschietti is obviously a horror icon to a lot of people, so you'd have to think that would be translated in. So I know I'm going off a big tangent here, but I think it's all circling back around to, well, putting Trunks on that guy in a scene where they're trying to depict horror take away from that. I don't necessarily think so. But in another answer, I think it will for some people, just in the same way as Trunks do, despite they're more accepted on Superman, but in the same way how people can't take him as seriously, as you're probably seeing many comments recently ever since we got set photos of the suit. People are just like, no, why is he wearing underwear? A full-grown adult wearing underwear. So people will still think that about Batman, but if the suit is done so badass in a way that they can just, in my imagination here, blend in, let's just say, some boxer briefs into Batman's, pants, if you will, from the belt line. That isn't, because the good thing about Batman, I think, is that with Superman, you have blue and red. They're very vibrant colors. But with Batman, you can kind of have a gray suit or whatever color you want to go with. And the trunks, if you will, or the boxer briefs going from the utility belt can kind of blend in with like a nice dark shade of the same color of the suit, or maybe an even darker shade to show a little bit of contrast, but something that doesn't look as underweary as much as it is, hey, I can kind of see the Kevlar weave protection that Bruce is using for, you know, ultimately protecting this area. I think if they kind of pull it off like that, they can actually do trunks on the Batman suit. And even though I know some of you listening right now are like, absolutely not, I'm telling you, I think they can pull that off, even if you don't like it as much, and it wouldn't really be my preference either. But I think they can do it, but it would really take like a subtle, smooth, blended in design to pull it off as like a people pleaser for most fans out there. But again, they could just go full kind of campy and just give him the most obvious Batman trunks. But I think they should do the best of both worlds if they are going to go for that option. Now, as for like a blue and gray version of the suit, that's something that I've always entertained a lot more in the DCU version, because I think it's more of something that could be done where it's not like vibrant blue or anything like that, like you've seen in some comics or animations. I think the best way to do that is what I've always said, or, you know, if I'm showcasing Job Hutt's artwork here, there's a certain blue to this suit, and I think if it's hit by a certain light, that would be really cool. So like the materials in his suit appear black in many instances, but perhaps the way it can, you know, the light can hit the suit will reflect a little bit of blue. That would be a really nice nod, because I do want the Batman suit. Like, Batman needs protective armor, realistically, even in the DCU. You know, Superman is basically invincible aside from magic and kryptonite and whatnot. So I think Batman, you know, I know we've got a peek at the Superman suit, and I know why people are now thinking, okay, so what do you think the Batman suit could look like? But just because we've seen the costume design of one suit for a superhero who is way more powerful than Batman, it doesn't really necessarily give us as many indicators as what I think people are thinking. It's like, oh, now we can maybe imagine what the Batman suit looks like. So I'm not saying that this doesn't give us new reinvigoration for wondering what it could look like, but we still need to think about Bruce Wayne. So I'm not abandoning in how I'm all for, like, I think he'll be high tech. I think he will have the white eyes in this version. That would be really cool. I don't want it to be like Injustice levels of plating and armor, but I think it will be high-tech in the ways that I always say here. A great example of what I would want in the DCU Batman for his Batsuit is Batman Telltale. Some kind of iteration rendition of that suit adapted would be amazing. Chuck in a bit of reflective blue to the light if you want to, some white eyes, some high tech on his wrist gauntlets and whatnot. That would be awesome. Now, on a similar questioning here from Abye de Chowdhury, probably butchered that, 2529. Do you think that the Batman costume will divide the fan base like how the Superman one did? This one's going to be a short, easy answer for me. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've always said this. Any casting is always divisive. People will love it. People will hate it. It happens every time with Batman and Superman. That's always going to be the case. The same way with the suit. Now, that doesn't make your opinion invalid if you like it or dislike it. It's just, it's the way it's going to be. It's like, this is a no-brainer question to me. Like, when that Batman suit gets revealed, people will be like, oh, they should have added trunks on there. Some people will be like, oh, they shouldn't have. Some people will be like, they should have made it more plated. Some people will be like, no, I wanted more of a skin-tight look. No, I wanted white eyes. Why haven't they done that? Or, no, why did they go for white eyes? It's just going to be, you know, it's just going to be the case. Just wait. Just you wait. So Mao9380 asks a question that I think, oh yeah, like this is a really good point. And we have talked about it before, but we definitely want to get your input on this one. So they say, hello, Boba, do you think General Lane will appear in the Superman movie? And, you know, with everything going on, with maybe Waller's involvement, with a certain other character that we saw on set recently, with just other things that are happening in the film, like the military getting involved. We've seen scenes, even when the suit was first revealed on the street outside the Daily Planet, all the rubble there, the military are going in there. You have to think, like, surely there's going to be... Well, I hope there's more than a reference to Sam Lane, because Sam Lane is often quite... I don't know if I would say integral to these storylines, but when you do get military involvement, it is quite a perfect and awkward opportunity to bring Sam Lane in. And I say awkward because you have Lois Lane there, and that is her father. And she... might be at odds with her father because, let's just say, you know, what's going on in this film, again, without getting into too many spoilers, there could be a bit of a disagreement. It's like, hey, Superman, you know, is good. He's trying to help out the situation, and Sam Lane bringing in the military, maybe the way he is, might have his own idea on the situation and kind of just roll his eyes at his daughter saying, honey, do you not think that I know how to handle a situation like this? There could be all kinds of ideas that you could chuck in there, but we haven't had a Sam Lane officially cast. cast. Now, I have said before that I do expect other characters to be in the movie, even if perhaps in a tiny role, even if they're not announced, and they could just pop up and it could be a cool surprise. But then again, I need to entertain the option that what if Sam Lane isn't actually in the movie? I would still expect him at the very least to be referenced. Maybe Sam Lane dispatches out the soldiers, but we don't really get scenes between him and Lois or Sam Lane and Superman. But with the set photos that we've already seen, I think that would be pretty hard to avoid. So do I think he'll be in the movie? That's a tough one. I've got a feeling that he could appear, and it just might not be a casting that's been announced. But if not, I think that would be a bit of a shame. I don't think we need, before anyone says, oh, another character, it wouldn't be like that. I don't think it would be like overstuffing the movie. I just think they could easily inject Sam Lane fairly organically with all the military things going on. And to me, it seems from set photos that it almost feels like Sam Lane should be in it. Now, up next is one I've heard a lot of people talk about recently with the Mr. Terrific look. So the Robo Game says, please talk about the Lord Tech / Maxwell Lord logo discovered on Mr. Terrific's suit, and if you think it's building up to a Justice League International movie. So, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, okay, I see what people were saying, because, we've all seen the looks at Mr. Terrific, and on his chest, under the jacket area, so the equivalent to my t-shirt here, there is the logo that we see on one of the shop windows that says, hey, we sell products from like Samsung, Lord Tech, and Quality and Sons Electronics. And on the Lord Tech, or should I say above it, there is a logo. And so people are naturally kind of lining up the clues here, saying, well, if that logo is the Lord Tech logo, Mr. Terrific has it on his chest, does that mean he gets his tech from Lord Tech, or that's how he got his suit? Which is super intriguing, because I don't know how to feel about this in a way, because if that implies, and, I'm not jumping to conclusions, but if that implies that maybe Mr. Terrific gets his T-Spheres from Lord Tech, and don't get me wrong, Maxwell Lord has a lot of means and reach and resources that he could develop stuff like that with Lord Tech. I always pictured Eddie Gathegi's Mr. Terrific having his own enterprise, his own terrific tech, if you will, and that's how he creates his T-Spheres. But that could still be the case, but in conjunction with Lord Tech, maybe? Now, expanding into the other thing, this would also imply that Mr. Terrific knows Maxwell Lord, and Maxwell Lord could be branching out, or has already, as we know from a lot of the clues that we've now got, has his own team, which is still basically a thing that we've gone over recently. In fact, I did a whole video explaining the whole Lord Tech logo, the inspirations going into this. I do recommend checking that video out if you want a bit of a deep dive, but I go over the likely influences from the DC Comics source material with that of the team of the conglomerate, with how they are literally a superhero-sponsored team. They even wear leather jackets, if you will, on top of their superhero suits. Then, of course, you have the Justice League International themselves, run by Maxwell Lord, which they're definitely pulling inspiration from here. And then with the suit design, and obviously Mr. Terrific being in it himself, and possibly creating the suits himself at Lord Tech, possibly Maxwell Lord's right-hand kind of R&D development genius guy, you have the Terrific's influence there, because obviously you have Mr. Terrific's suit, but then you look at Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner's suits, and you can just kind of see the blend of Justice League International, the conglomerate, and the Terrifics into one here. So something has been launched, even if it's not the actual fully fledged Justice League. I do somewhat view this as a bit of a precursor. I'm not saying there isn't a Justice League out there, but I think initially, in the early days of the DCU, what we could see first is the kind of trickling along, rather than that of a full-on fledged Justice League project. Because, I mean, after all, out of all the projects that have been announced so far, up to 10, 11, 12 of them, and then the rumored projects like Titans and stuff, we haven't had a Justice League movie announced in the first 4 to 5 years of the DCU. So that is kind of my evidence for that, if you will. I don't think we're going to have that movie or project come out with a Justice League formation and a Justice League threat. I think that could come out with the big bad of whatever's going to happen in with Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. But initially, the heroes will interact through, I think, team-ups like this. Of course, I'm not discounting that we could get more projects announced and moved up on the DCU slate. For example, how Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow has been definitely moved up in Peacemaker Season 2, and Waller and Peacemaker swapped around because Waller was originally going to be a Peacemaker Season 1.5. So you get what I'm saying there. But if you just, like, follow a bit of logic, no Justice League project announced. What else do we have to work with? Oh, Maxwell Lord got announced. We have Lord Tech being a logo on Mr. Terrific's suit. We have a Booster Gold series. We have Blue Beetle. An animated DCU canonical series happening. It's probably going to be the case, as I've kept going on about here. A bit of a precursor, perhaps. The heroes then, perhaps, maybe split off with a sense of their own individuality, inspired by Superman, somewhat navigating the situation to a new status quo in the DCU that Superman has interrupted. You might have Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, and Mr. Terrific be like, okay, who are we without Lord Tech? Who are we without what has been happening in the DCU for the past 10 to 15 to 20 years, and where, becoming sponsored teams and sponsored heroes is a bit more of a normal thing to come by? Well, maybe we should actually have our own individual suits. Maybe Hawkgirl, you could have your own individual suit. Maybe Guy Gardner. And then they navigate a new way forward, paved. So the path is literally paved by Superman's actions in this movie, and possibly, the actions that he's been doing the past couple of years. Although, one thing I do want to maintain is that I don't think Sean Gunn would have been announced to play Maxwell Lord as a one-off. So it is a possibility that his Lord Tech corporate-sponsored team could evolve, rather than just being a uniformed team, really corporately sponsored, with heroes having to kind of answer to that of a corporation. Maybe he becomes a little bit malleable over time. And my main reasons for exploring this theory is that I do have a sense that Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord will possibly be around in the Booster Gold series. So when Booster Gold comes back in time, he recruits Booster Gold over to whatever this Lord Tech team will be at that point, if you even want to call it a Lord Tech team at that point. And there's a little bit more individuality, if not a Justice League in of itself. But I do think that Maxwell Lord will still be involved. So to all of those of you who are thinking, okay, this whole Lord Tech thing will be gone by the end of the movie, maybe it will in a certain way, through Superman's inspirations and new ideals and everything like that of individuality being encouraged. But I do still think that Maxwell Lord will be trying to endorse superheroes throughout the years of the DCU, even if it means perhaps a little bit less corporately. So up next from 123 Sloaner saying, hey Boba, quick question. With one of the main points of Superman's film being that Superman is seen as one of the only heroes that doesn't kill, do you think that means that Batman is killed in the DCU? And if so, are you okay with this, or would you prefer his no-kill rule? So this isn't a guaranteed thing at all. I think this comes in with my reverse Kingdom Come theory, reflecting that of how, since we know the DCU is a world overrun with metahumans already in James Gunn's DCU, it can reflect Kingdom Come in that way where, because they've been around for a long time, the kind of moral principles from that of the Golden Age heroes, perhaps back in World War II with the Justice Society of America, the mantles that have been passed down, new heroes coming about, wannabe heroes, are more really posing as heroes and are realistically anti-heroes. May not have so much of a quarrel with killing if it's necessary. I know people keep circulating this plot leak that's going around, but really, I don't think that is a plot leak. All they did is describe theories that are already out there. I don't think it's every single one of them, like Green Arrow, Batman, to Wonder Woman, to whoever. I just think there's a lot more of them out there, kind of like how there's soups in the boys universe. There's lots of heroes out there, and there's lots of heroes that don't kill, but there's so many out there where collateral damage is happening, and it's making heroes like, Superman facepalm and want to make a change. Hence the reverse Kingdom Come aspect of that, because instead of returning back in an older age to restore kind of the ways of being a hero, he's kind of inspiring people from his first few years of superhero activity. Now, as for Batman, absolutely not. I want the no-kill rule. I do think that's an integral part of his character. Again, lots of people always argue with me with this. They're like, oh, well, if you know the true Batman, you'll know that he killed in the late 1930s and 40s comics. And I'm always just like, look, so let's just say you don't like Trunks, the same person who's saying that to me. Well, then really, you should be saying that true canonical Batman at his best and his most origin and how he was created should have trunks, and anything else wouldn't be true Batman. No, of course not. Characters designed that early in the late 1930s to early 40s, the character's still developing and being formed. Major traits get established along the way as that character story is being written, and then becomes integral to that character. For example, I mean, canonically then, Superman shouldn't be able to fly. He should just be able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Do you know what I mean? So I always find when it goes back to that time where I talked about Snyder's comments on that podcast about Batman killing, and I had so many DMs of people sending me comic book panels from the 1940s and saying, well, you don't know Batman, this is truly who he is. And I'm just like, well, this is such a silly point in my mind, because believe it or not, that's not definitive Batman at the beginning as he was created. He grew, Superman grew in abilities, Batman grew in abilities. He then got other things that are very famous and actually now incredibly hard to separate from the character, to the point of where people probably think they've been there since day one of Batman's creation when they haven't. So do you see, the only point I'm trying to make is the no-kill rule, I don't think can be denied. All while Batman has killed in many comics, I don't think it can be denied that it became like an integral part to what makes that character who he is. And we shouldn't look as the character's first introductions with my examples as how they should be, and if you disagree, you're wrong, because that's the character as he was created. So I view the no-kill rule as a big part of Batman, and you know, I'm not against challenging the character and maybe putting him in a situation that puts him through an arc and where he really does have a hard time moving past whatever encounter he had, versus Batman just going up against a thug in the street or whatever, like let's just say the beginning of the Batman movie, and just snapping necks. No. I mean, that's not the character to me. And there's so many reasons under the sun that I can talk about that for the next 10 hours, you know, with how it's integral to his origin. But yeah, without rambling and repeating myself, no, Batman shouldn't kill, and I don't think he would have really in the DCU, nor do I think he will. And another huge reason as to why I don't think DCU Batman will kill is because, guess what? His little ninja assassin son, as James Gunn says, is coming in the story, Damian Wayne, and he has been trained from basically frickin' as soon as he could walk to be a killer, a trained assassin, right? And so a big part of this story is going to be Batman teaching him that we don't kill, that you don't have to do that. So of course, Batman's not going to kill in the DCU, and most certainly I wouldn't want him to. So up next from Arkham Fan 215. So I'm gonna give a spoiler warning for this one. I'll leave a timestamp if you want to skip this, or maybe it's at the end of the video, I don't know. But either way, spoiler warning if you don't want to know anything with regards to you know, the theories of is there a clone and things related to that. So with that being said, from Arkham Fan 215, the suit reveal pic and the suit present in the leaks are quite different. The suit in the leaks seems to have a smaller logo, brighter colors, less noticeable texturing, possibly just battle damage. An old topic of discussion, the eyebrows. The suit reveal seems to have thinner eyebrows, while the leaks show David bearing fuller eyebrows. Is there a possibility that either A, the suits are going to coexist and be exchanged within the movie, or B, the common theory the suit reveal photo was the elusive Superman clone? So yes, absolutely. Well, one thing we need to get out the way is that the suit reveal photo is a battle-damaged version. So that's why I don't think it's as vibrant. It is actually quite vibrant, or just as vibrant in the knee area, where I guess you don't sustain as much battle damage, because if you're getting gunshots, blasts from ray guns, or whatever it is, it will be around here most of the time, right? That Superman gets on his suit. So that's why it's a bit of a blackened blue up here. But undoubtedly, as I pointed out in recent videos, the suit details are like absolutely different. So in my conclusion, I just think that they made minor alterations to the suit in the design process, to the point in where when we actually saw it being filmed, it largely looks the same. Obviously it's more vibrant, but it does have differences. So the crest is just a bit smaller, and then the other things that I've mentioned. But of course, then there is the other theory of the Superman clone, and how maybe, let's just say, it isn't minor alterations to the actual vibrant version that we saw David Corenswet wearing on set, and that it is actually another suit worn by the clone in an effort to recreate the design, if you will, that they've seen Superman wear flying around in universe. Because there is a really good point here that is still a mystery. The eyebrows. I know this sounds so ridiculous suspicious to some of you? Because even when I first saw that photo come out, before the suit reveal, I think it was, when we saw David Corenswet, James Gunn, and Rachel Brosnahan reading the comics, I thought, okay, maybe it's just the lighting. But the more you look at it, it really just didn't appear to be that way. It really did look as though that his eyebrows were slightly dyed a bit lighter, even if it was temporary dye or something like that. It was so strange. And then we got the suit reveal with the battle damaged version, and his eyebrows, even though they appear a little bit darker, they're still practically non-existent compared to David Corenswet's normal eyebrows, which, lo and behold, were confirmed to still be there in the set photos that we saw recently when we've got the first good look at the vibrant, non-battle damaged version of the suit. So that is just something that's a mystery. It really is. Like, why were they different? And I know some of you will still say lighting, and a part of me still wants to believe that, but I don't think so. Like, in that photo, you can see Rachel Brosnahan's very clearly, and sure, you can say, again, that's the lighting, but you would still see dark-ass eyebrows on David Corenswet if they were there. But they were done differently. They just were. So you could argue that those same eyebrows, or lack of eyebrows, if you will, were present in that battle-damaged suit reveal. And that is why people are thinking, could that suit, which is also different, larger crest, different lines on the arms, actually different ribboning around the shoulder area, around the shoulder pads, could that be a clone, and going back to the Ultraman clone theory? Maybe, and that would be kind of a clever thing if let's just hypothetically assume this was true. It could have been like a little cool clever thing that Gunn did, in where, because the suits are largely, overall minus the battle damage and a couple of details, the same, that people would just buy that's David Corenswet as Superman. But one day in the future we could learn that, no, that was actually the clone that Lex created. Maybe, but I don't know about that theory, because it's just like, really, would you do that? I'm not so sure. And then you take into account the set photos. Again, spoiler warning here for that other character that was seen on set. I'm going to get into it again here and actually show a photo that I'm allowed to use of the seeming Ultraman, or should I say Black Noir costume that people keep saying. This is another thing that complicated matters, because you could argue that, okay, if this is their take on Ultraman, given the logo of the U on the chest, is that really the clone in the first battle-damaged suit reveal picture? And it could still be, because as I've said before, Ultraman could be wearing this Black Noir suit, if you will, but when he's going around to obviously frame Superman to get him arrested, he would wear a similar suit as seen in the battle-damaged suit reveal to obviously look like Superman. And this would explain why he's wearing a mask in public, because I've seen people ask me that quite a lot. Why would he wear a mask? Well, obviously, if you're trying to hide that you've cloned Superman to commit crimes to make Superman look bad, and you're in a situation and filming a scene and where you're arresting Superman, obviously you wouldn't want to have two Superman faces walking alongside each other. Obviously not, because that would get people asking questions. So then there's the other thing of making this more complicated, and what if that's not Ultraman that was seen on set, and what if it's Ulysses? Maybe. But I'm still not decided, believe it or not. I keep seeing people say, that's not Ultraman, that is Ulysses. How do you know that? I don't know that, so you don't know that. Like, there is no knowing that. You may say, but it's obvious. Is it obvious? We don't know. As I said, like, even if they were ever going to do an Ultraman, it would have never have been a dark, evil Superman from a different Earth in the multiverse who is not a part of the Justice League, but a part of the crime syndicate. They weren't in the first movie, even though I think the DCU will get that comic booky. They weren't going to pull an alternate universe Superman over. So even as of the very inception of the Ultraman rumor and leak, I never thought it would be an actual Ultraman from another universe, so I did expect innovation in the costume design and influences from multiple dark Superman characters or evil Superman characters. So maybe chuck a bit of Ultraman in there. Yeah, maybe chuck in the parallels between Ulysses' frickin' origin and Superman, and suit design, maybe with making it black and having a U on it as well. Then maybe if his mask is off, another theory is that if he's exposed to the Earth's yellow sun because he's a clone or something like that, it could weaken him. There's all kinds of things, but I kind of wanted to talk like this because nobody really knows. As much as we think, oh yeah, that's Ultraman, even though I have shown a lot of conviction in showing and bringing up the James Gunn non-denial, the non-debunking that he did on Threads, I still left that video off saying we can't be sure, because adaptations don't copy and paste. I do think there is something to this cloning thing. I really do. but we just have to wait and see how it plays out. Because no matter what, I think whoever that character is, yes, it could be Ulysses, yes, it could be Ultraman, but what will the title of their character be called? Because even if it is Ulysses in name, and that's the name of the character, even if it is Ultraman, I think they're still going to have heavy injections of other darker Superman characters that influence the design of that character. I mean, even with the goggles of an old-fashioned Doomsday design was put into that. Because I keep seeing people show these comic book panels of Ulysses, but that's still not quite the same. So again, hence a combination of influences. I do like the theory of what people said, that Ulysses is a project that Lex Luthor, a code name of a project that he would use. So if he is trying to recreate or replicate Superman's DNA in another being, and perhaps, I've got ideas what if Krypto's origin in this adaptation was that, I mean, how does science experiments work? As we know, if you're trying to do stuff like this, you don't just go from zero to creating an actual clone of Superman. You would normally experiment on other beings, other species, and that's how I'm wondering if we could get Krypto the dog in this movie, and he was just a test subject, similar to what was done in Titans, actually, in order to create Superboy. So in order to create Ultraman, or this clone of Superman, or Ulysses, or whatever they're going with, but you'd need to experiment first, and perhaps that's how Krypto's origin starts in this movie. That's only if, of course, Clark doesn't already have Krypto. And even then, I'd be asking, okay, so what is the origin with Krypto in this universe? Because it does actually change up a little bit from time to time. But going back to the Ulysses thing, I do like the idea of how there's, again, the combination of influences. I know I keep saying it, but stay with me here in how, okay, project name, Ulysses. Krypto created in the process, maybe, but let's put that aside for a second. It's a clone of Superman. That's not Ulysses' origin. But that's where you kind of get the Ultraman vibes in there as well, with the U, and it matches up to Ulysses' U on his suit as well. Maybe he looks like David Corenswet, so maybe he's played by David Corenswet, but given the name Ulysses in title. And again, Lex Luthor being kind of poetic with his project names and naming this clone Ulysses is a very Lex-type title or name to give. So again, you see the kind of avenue I'm going down here, and I think there's all kinds of injections of ideas that could be going on that I don't think, if you're thinking that it's going to be straight up original Ulysses or straight up original Ultraman adaptation, no. So as a result of that, I just don't think any of us know, other than this very speculation that we're having right now. But if you want to expand on anything I just said, because again, there's an amalgamation of kind of ideas or, possibilities that I think could happen with this Ulysses/Ultraman project, do expand on it. I would love to know your thoughts, because obviously that's a big talking point right now. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end the video there. It's been a mighty long one. I do apologize if I didn't get into as much or certain theories or questions that you may have wanted me to with everything going on recently, but don't worry, I will be covering it in more videos. Definitely subscribe for more installments in the discussion series that will most certainly be coming your way. Again, can't wait to read your comments down in that comment section below with regards to everything we discussed today. Leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it. I'd really appreciate that support, but I'm gonna love you and leave you now. So again, really appreciate you watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.